Hi, my beautiful Cancers. This is your astrology reading for November for all Cancer signs, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus. However, if you're new to the channel and you're coming in under the Venus sign, please understand Venus for me does not speak about love. So this would not be talking to you about love. Venus for me is all about sensitivity and where that sensitivity is going to take you. So as long as you're viewing it under the Venus sign, as long as you understand that it's all about the sensitivity, not necessarily a love aspect. With that being said, Spirit is saying for the Cancer sign that there's definitely some conversation going on in the head. Yeah, definitely some conversation going on in the head, some scratching of the head, some curiosity, some subconscious coming to light. And it's definitely going to be an abundance of levels of also dealing with your sacral chakra. Subconscious energies that the actual community is going to be somehow mirroring, bringing that karmic cycle of subconsciousness to light, making it rise in a mirrored way so that you can start to overcome it. Because I'm being told that this is definitely about you're going to be in your head. Get out of your head in negative ways. Allow some of the subconscious things to come up and teach you a lesson. I started to say a level. This is about you rising to a new level of your own soulfulness, of your own self, of your own self-awareness, physical body, personality, ego, identification, because they're giving me the image of the sun. So what's coming, it's coming for a new, like an inner alpha. A new inner alpha is being risen from within, because I am also being given skulls. And for me, this is going to have to do with, life, death, rebirth. So it's like a resurrection of self. But some of this is going to be subconscious karmic energies that are rising to the surface and making you learn how to overcome them. As you try to move forward. Let me double check something because I'm getting a message also, and I can't keep up with them all. That's why I have all my notes. You're also going to be dealing with some relationship grief, shame, blame, as you're overcoming some of these issues, is what Spirit is giving me. I can never remember. It's just the way that they talk to me, so I have to go back sometimes. It's too much stuff in my head for me to all remember. Yeah, grief, sorrow, secret, shame, blame. Trying to overcome them and what's been going on in the head versus your inner shine and where it's kept you from shining and rising to the true person that you are. You're going to be definitely dealing with some responsibilities to yourself, as well as where there's going to be some opposition, some obstacles there. And it's not necessarily obstacles, it's the belief factor of what you've believed, and it's just shifting new rules, walls, and boundaries so that you can find that level of belief in self. They're saying it has a lot to do with physical change in the physical material world and karmic lessons that'll be learned, which brings you back all together to your inner emotional security. Now let me go over the month for you, because I never have time to go over every single thing in detail, but I'm going to try to hit the houses as much as possible, as quickly as I can. Because there's just too much to go over for the whole entire month every single day. So I give you a roundabout. Obviously, Mercury just went retrograde on Halloween, so you're going to feel that retrograde of Mercury in Scorpio up until the 20th when it goes direct again. On the 1st, Venus moved into Sagittarius. But on the 8th, Pallas also will move into Sagittarius. That is putting Venus and Pallas with Ceres and Jupiter. Now on the 4th, you have Jura moving into Libra. And this is going to be moving in with Haumea and Make. That's the lotus flower and the collective consciousness. For Jura, or Yura, however you pronounce it, that is sacrifice and commitment. We'll check out the houses in a minute. I'm just making sure I told you what moved so you can always go back and check later. You have the full moon, which is taking place on the 12th. The full moon is going to be in Taurus with Uranus and Vista. Independence, individuality, uniqueness, freedom, self-worth, self-value, self-esteem. And it's also with Vista, which is the inner soul fire. Like I said, a lot of this I feel is coming into karmic lessons of your inner emotional security. On the 16th or the 17th, because when I look at the astrology, I can't really tell. It just happens to be the way that is popping up. But that's when Ceres is moving in to Capricorn. Ceres is karma. It's the threefold theory. And it is also what teaches you about what you've been nurturing or what has been neglected. It is moving into Capricorn with Pluto and Saturn in the South Node. So it's going to force major changes by acknowledging what's being nurtured, what's been being neglected, and starting to make the major changes that you're going to see over the next 6 months. You have Mars on the 19th moving into Scorpio. On the 20th, you have Mercury, which will go direct. On the 22nd, you have the Sun, which is moving into Sagittarius. And then the 25th, Venus actually moves into Capricorn as well, bringing all that sensitivity to that karmic change with Pluto, Ceres, and Saturn. And I believe at the end of next month, it might be January, is when Jupiter moves into into Capricorn. So like major changes are coming over the next 6 months. And Spirit keeps telling me that you're going to be seeing it in memberships and community. But we'll look into that in a minute. You have the new moon, which is going to take place on the 26th. And that's going to be in Scorpio. That's the second new moon in a row. So it's not finishing a cycle, it's continuing a cycle and strengthening on that birth, death, and rebirth, reincarnation energy. Then you have on the 27th is when Neptune itself is going direct. Now, when we get looking into, let me turn it here for you. Let me not start with that day. Let me look. Okay, all month long. Your self-awareness and your relationship zone are in opposition. Your very self-awareness, your physical body, personality, appearance, your view of life, your identification, your image, your illumination, your personal shine, and your own personal ego of how you see yourself as well as how others see you is in opposition of the relationships, the marriages, the partnerships, your business contracts. Relationships also deal with divorce and separation, lawsuits, open enemies. I can't say enough times that no matter anything you care about in your life, you have a relationship with. You have a relationship with money. When you have no money, you know all about your relationship with that money. So anything you care about, you have a relationship with. It's not just your loved ones and your family members or your working environments. It is those on a major level, but it's also just anything that you care about. And you're in opposition of this, meaning things in this outer community and in these outer relationships are speaking to you about what needs to shift and change, because either it's keeping you from believing in yourself, your self-awareness, your reality, your self-awareness, your personality, appearance, your view of life. It might be putting you in a reality of viewing yourself incorrectly and starting to have more inner emotional security and believe in yourself so that you don't have to believe in a relationship that maybe isn't healthy, is what I'm getting out of this. Because all month long, your very identification is not getting along, and it's been this way all year with Pluto and Saturn. Okay? Saturn is rules, walls, boundaries, making shifts and changes for new and healthier relationships, and acknowledging where the ones you have are not good. Pluto is all about reincarnation, regeneration, brand new cycles for soulful healthiness. Okay, within the relationships. But now you're going to have Ceres move in mid-month. You're going to have Ceres move in mid-month. And you're going to have Venus move in at the end of the month, which is going to bring that into a higher level of sensitivity, a higher level of karmic energy, a higher level of have you been being nurtured properly or neglected within these relationships, as well as what are you putting out, nurturing or neglecting energy as well. Are you putting maybe too much energy into nurturing and not being being neglected, or are you being neglected because of the opposite? You know what I'm saying? So Ceres brings the threefold theory and karmic energy to the very idea of what is nurtured and what is neglected. Venus is going to bring the sensitivity in just in case it didn't touch down on enough information for you in the beginning of the month, mid-month. On the 25th is when Venus moves into Capricorn. So if you're in denial come the end of November and into December, Venus is going to smack you with it. Because Venus is your sensitivity, making you view what is comfortable and what is uncomfortable, why you like it and love it and why you hate it and it feels like torture. And in these relationships, she's going to be pushing on Ceres to push on Jupiter and Pluto and the South Node about understanding what these relationships are, positive and negative, what they are neglecting and what is being nurtured, and how they are healthy and how they are not, and how that suits and works in healthy ways with your own self-awareness. So I'm letting you know all month long, you are going to be feeling that, and it's going to build right into December. Definitely. This can be a good thing as long as you're making sure that you're not staying in stale cycles of things that have been negative for you and keeping you from not having healthy relationships. They're pointing out the ones that are unhealthy so that you can get on board with treating yourself right, giving yourself inner emotional security so that you have better relationships. And I'm dying of thirst. So that may be areas where you've been like that crab energy and you've pulled inside of yourself, but you haven't necessarily spoken your truth, which means like I'm thirsting for allowing myself to come out. So you may be finding that this month because like I said, I'm like killing my drink over here. So I'm giving you that piece of information. Now, for you, your second house is Leo. This is your self-worth, your self-value, your self-esteem. You don't have any planets here at the moment other than the two guardians of the pole that are always in Leo, which is part of why Leo is so dramatic. It's ruled by the sun. So it's ruled by, you know, it's ruled by the sun, which cannot help but to give it that dramatic, egotistical side from time to time. But it's also very much a conscious, loving communication and compassionate energy, but not at the sacrifice for itself. And that is an important thing because it's speaking to you of your self-worth, your self-value, your self-esteem. And there's nothing there to influence it, positive or negative. So that is definitely a positive thing for you. But I feel like you're kind of getting that energy anyway, being pushed to you with that first house, because in your first house right now, like I said, in your very first house right now, you have the North Node here. And where is it? Yeah, you have the North Node, and it basically just came off of 5 degrees of the Sirius star. So it is still giving you a lot of that God consciousness, that inner goddess, that inner godding consciousness of connecting to your true inner emotional security, the higher seed of the higher self, and allowing that to come forward. But Spirit keeps saying something to me about pursuit of pleasure, something about finding happiness. Finding a new vibrational path of happiness for your own self is what Spirit is saying. That was very clever. It's just the way that they happen to do that for me to say that. Finding a new vibrational path, rising yourself to a new vibrational interest of your own self-worth, a new self-love. And you're going to be acknowledging this, I think, over the next 6 months, but you're definitely going to start seeing it now over the month of November. And they keep bringing me back to karmic lessons. But the North Node tells us what we have to learn in order to move forward, and that is in your very self-awareness. So you're definitely acknowledging these lessons before before that North Node finally moves. Now, your third house is Virgo. And again, we don't have anything here to influence it positive or negative. But remember, Virgo is also ruled by Mercury. So it's going to be speaking to us of that Mercury that's in retrograde over the month. So you want to make sure in your short messages, your short journeys, your transportation, your intellect, your details, your trivia, your phone calls, your gossip, your communication, your text messages. You're very clear about things because Mercury will be in retrograde, which will force you to be a little self-centered. And we're all a little self-centered. We don't mean to necessarily be narcissistic, but we can't help but be a little self-centered when our communication is only talking to ourselves. So make sure that you're very detail oriented about the things that you are putting out, because you may miss important details at this point, especially since you don't have an actual planet in the area to influence it, but it's still influenced by Mercury, which is in retrograde. So I just want to make sure that you have that part straight. Now, as you move into your universal fourth house, you have Mars here, which is going to be moving. Mars is going to be in Libra, that universal fourth house for you, up until the 19th of November. Ooh. And for you, this is your inner emotional security. This is where the karmic lessons are being made. This is where your reincarnation of getting to the true self and the roots of self are digging deep enough to find self, okay? To come into a new level of who and what you are, returning to your truth, believing in your truth. You have Mars here until the 19th with Ura, who just moved in on the 4th. Haumea and Make. Your very collective consciousness is starting to be aware of this. Make is telling you where you are on the level of the lotus flower, growing and maturing from the muddy, murky dirt that you can't, the muddy, murky water, you can't see the light from the end of day, or starting to bloom, where you're starting to find your way back to yourself, love yourself, accept yourself, and then create and bloom again. Mars is giving you that inner sacral chakra, your inner warrior, your inner passion, action, aggression for your inner emotional security, to believe and strengthen yourself from the sacral chakra up. Maybe even the solar plexus. The solar plexus, obviously, that's the will. But maybe even from the root chakra, from rerouting yourself and moving that way up. Because, like I said, this is the energies that I'm feeling going on in this universal fourth house for you. And Libra is all about finding where balance and harmony is by showing you where it's not. So it's definitely pointing out, a new level of self-love, self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, putting you back on track with self so that you can get back on track of how to move yourself in the most positive ways. Now, what I am seeing, though, is it is definitely working with that Neptune energy all month. Going the wrong way. It's working with that Neptune energy all month of trying to help you recreate yourself. And Lilith is here, which is helping you to, get deeper within that sacral chakra and strengthen it. But what it is questioning is that Uranus in Taurus, which is your self-worth, your self-value, your self-esteem. So you're strengthening yourself, but it feels like there's just parts of you, your doubt or your question. And this is why Spirit is saying you're in your head too much in a negative way in some forms, trying to fight yourself on that ability. Don't do that. They're warning you, don't do that, because that actually causes more grief and it keeps you from moving forward. Strengthen yourself by believing in yourself. Just see where in the past you haven't learned that karmic lesson of where you haven't, so that you can start to move forward. Now, in the 5th house, we have is Scorpio. Your 5th house is where your pursuit of pleasure takes place, and that is where Spirit keeps directing me. You also have the new moon that just happened in October and is going to happen again and re-strengthen on the 26th of the month. Scorpio is all about reincarnation and being fertile about that shift and change. Like I said, dying of thirst. So I feel like you're coming into a new ability to speak for yourself, believe in yourself, stand up for yourself. You are going to have the sun in Scorpio with Mercury up until the 22nd. Mercury will go direct on the 20th, but the sun will actually move out and into Sagittarius on the 22nd. But this is illuminating that 5th house, your very creativity, starting to bring that shine back. Your personal interests, your sports, your hobbies, your creative expression, your dating, your personal enjoyment in life. You can't have inner emotional security if you can't enjoy life. If you can't take part in life with, an open heart, an open idea of being able to take the chances of experiencing joy in life. And this is saying get back on track with that. Rebirth what brings you joy and bringing that pursuit of pleasure to the forefront and enjoy life. And this is going to start to shift things for you and bring that self-awareness into a whole new level with your inner emotional security. And that's your key to the month right there. As you understand that that's a reincarnation of all of those first 5 houses, more or less. That will change how everything will work or strive to be in the next from 6 to 12 houses. Because it'll start shifting your everyday mundane tasks when you get more on track of what's right and soulful with you. And like I said, you're going to have Mercury in retrograde here up until the 20th. The sun will be moving out on the 22nd, but you have Mars moving in on the 19th. So all of this energy is coming, right into full focus, I would say, between the 20th and the 26th, where you have that new moon energy, is where you're definitely going to feel like a ball of a shift of a change. So, mid-month, closer to the end of the month is where you're really going to feel like a fireball shifting for you. It's the best way I know how to explain it. Now, as you come into your 6th house, this is your everyday daily tasks, your mundane tasks, which you kind of overlook and you do every day and you don't think it's quite as important. This is where Sagittarius is. And this is where Jupiter, Ceres, has been for you all year. But they're both getting close to moving out of this energy. I also say this is where your higher self has been trying to communicate with you all year, because Jupiter in Sagittarius I see as the higher self. So it's been talking to you about what these mundane daily tasks are good for you and what aren't, what serve you in healthy ways and what don't. And it deals with the people, the places, and the things that you consume in those daily mundane tasks, because that's part of your daily mundane tasks. The energy you are consuming from those people, places, and things. You have now Venus moving in and going to fly through this month. It's going to come in on the 1st of Sagittarius, those daily mundane tasks, and it's going to be out of there by the 25th. So it's coming straight through saying, like this, don't like this, like this, don't like this, like this, don't like this. Yes, stay with that. No, stop. Yes, stay with that. No, stop. And it's going to be very picky and pointing it out incredibly fast. Palace is coming through at the same time, but not as quickly. Palace is your strategic thinking. So let Venus organize and talk to your inner palace of strategic thinking about what these daily mundane tasks serve you well and how they don't, so that you can start to move in more healthy ways. Okay? Then we're going to move into that 7th house. This is the relationship zone. You are definitely going to see major changes. If you haven't not already started to see them, you're going to be seeing major changes over the next 6 months. I promise you. This has everything to do with the way the planets are moving, and this is a worldwide event, but for you, it happens to be in that 7th house of those relationships, those marriages, those partners, those contracts, divorce, separation, open enemies, love, hate, anything you have a relationship with. We already have discussed this about how it's dealing with your self-worth. You are definitely going to be going through a karmic shift of karmic lessons, inner emotional security, neglect, nurturing, how it's serving you healthy, and you're going to be definitely seeing it all month long, but you're going to be noticing it for the next 6 months about how to build it in healthy ways and how you've held on to things that have been unhealthy within those relationships, because you're going to have Jupiter move in. I think it's January, but it might be the end of December. Ceres is moving in, you know, in the middle of this month. You're going to have Venus, which is coming in, and this is all on top of Saturn and Pluto. Saturn, and we haven't felt energies like this since the Middle Ages. So this is definitely learning to speak your mind, speak your truth, speak your power within these relationships, and say, no, I will not be pushed around anymore. I will not idly sit by and just take shit. Now I'm going to start to, you know, stand my ground within these relationships, and you're definitely going to be feeling it over the next 6 months as you reshape what these relationships are. And the 11th house, you don't have anything here in Aquarius, which is both good and bad. It doesn't mean that you have anything going for you or against you. The 8th house is speaking to you about the rules of the relationships, the financial and joint efforts of the relationships, the joint resources of the relationships. It has everything to do with what the rules, walls, and boundaries are in these relationships. But I feel like at this time, that transformational healing of that is already taking place, you know, anyway, in that Scorpio energy of those 2 new moons that we are going through. Even though for you, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your 5th house, speaking to you about being creative and understanding who you are, your self-worth, your self-value, what you want in life, and what you enjoy in life. And within that, it's going to take it right back to what you will and will not accept. So I feel like these energies are already hitting that universal 8th house. Is just like you're not getting it from the 8th house. You're getting it from outside energies. The 9th house for you happens to be Pisces. This is where at the end of the month, where Neptune is going to go direct, which means your subconscious is in your higher self. And in form, that's what it is for all of us. But for you, it's a little bit more darker twisted. Because Pisces is the universal 12th house. Okay? For you, this is your ninth house, which is your higher self. So you have levels of your higher self that you can't quite believe in. You're in denial of believing in. And that's because that's the way that Pisces energy is. But for you, it's that ninth house, which is asking you to get right with your inner emotional security of your ethics, your morals, your spiritual urges, your higher understanding of visions, spiritual truth, and wisdom. It's going to shut off, so I'm going to start part 2. So please come back and check out part 2, because that only lets me do for about 30 minutes. All right. But we'll go over the 9th through the 12th house in part 2. Love you guys. Bye.